We live like Channel 9. I'm trying to tell y'all. Look, let me show y'all something. Rewind the video, because I'm just here to give you breaking news. This should be breaking news all over CNN. This should be breaking fucking news all over CNN. Let me tell you why. Let me show you something. Look, what's this say, y'all? What's this say? International Commission of Jurists finds U.S., which stands for United States, guilty on all counts of genocide. That's really what it should say. Guilty on all counts. Watch this. After hearing from over 30 witnesses and receiving hundreds of documents, the panel of jurists found the U.S. government and its subdivisions guilty of genocide and gross human rights violations. The executive summary verdict, which follows, is the preliminary report with a detailed cited ruling to appear in the near future. Watch this, y'all. This real shit right here. How come y'all don't know about this? Because half y'all don't know about law. And you don't know about the Convention on the Prevention of Genocide that was held in the United Nations. So, International Tribunal on Human Rights Abuses against Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. October 23rd to the 25th of 2021. Now, watch where it say they at for the Moors that's watching this. New York, NY, Turtle Island, Lenape land. Look at this. Executive summary verdict. In the case of Black and Brown Indigenous peoples charging human rights abuses and genocide against the United States of America, as represented by its president and Department of State, federal and state policing agencies, and other governmental institutions, as collected in evidence at the 2021 International Tribunal on U.S. Human Rights Abuses against Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. Why ain't this? Dog, they just got... Let me scroll down here, and I'm going to show y'all, bro, that these people just got... Look at this shit. United States is guilty. Ooh, boy. This is some serious shit. I cannot. Look, judgment. Despite the need of further deliberation on the extensive submissions and documents from varied expert witness, a deep analyst from the jurists found that the process did significantly cover the scope and elements of all 5 counts in the indictment as having legal standing and hence legitimacy. The jurists further established that the grounds for each of the counts in the indictment presented the basis for successfully intervention due to the extensive testimonies of both witnesses. Where is it at? Boy, they found they ass guilty. The panel of jurists finds the U.S. and its subdivisions guilty of all 5 counts. We find grounds that acts of genocide have been committed against Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples. Now, we're going to scroll up here. Now, why ain't the news telling y'all about this? Because this lay grounds for reparations. Now, watch this. Dog, this shit is serious, fam. This should be breaking news, bro. So I'm here giving it to you for the older one. This is really for the older people. Even though y'all so damn burnt out and scared. I don't know why. But look, executive summary. The fact that the United States has committed an array of human rights abuses against Black and Brown Indigenous people should be as uncontroversial as it is incontrovertible. There is widespread agreement that settler colonists committed genocide and other crimes against indigenous populations while taking their lands. No one would disagree that enslaved Africans were first to work the settler colony lands for hundreds of years in subhuman conditions. Y'all don't have no clue. If you don't have no clue what they talking about, I'm going to tell you right now. You might want to start looking up some more science and start learning some real history. Start looking up world history. The historical records tells the story of additional human rights abuses committed against Mexicans and other groups as the U.S. expanded west and colonized countries like Puerto Rico. No one doubts the Japanese were forced into concentration camps during World War II, or that blacks were lynched and brutalized during Jim Crow. The current president of the United States acknowledged these crimes. His Secretary of State recently confirmed this while stating, "Great nations such as ours do not hide from our shortcomings. They strive to improve with transparency." Such statements ring hollow. Hold up. The spirit of Mandela Coalition pensioned the creation of this tribunal because they believe that not only are U.S. human rights abuses shortcomings not being fully acknowledged, but that the United States has sought to bury a number of these crimes. The coalition enlisted a prosecutor, don't know how to pronounce young man's name, to argue their case. Their indictment on behalf of black, brown, and indigenous peoples in the U.S. charges the U.S. government and its states and political subdivisions with crimes committed in 5 areas: police racism, it should say police brutality, and violence, mass incarceration, political prisoners/prisoners of war, environmental racism, public health inequalities. Further, they argue that the U.S. has committed genocide. Dog, this is not no damn game. Do y'all, bro, look up on the United Nations Convention on the Prevention of Genocide. In 2021, the International Tribunal on U.S. Human Rights Abuses against Black and Brown and Indigenous people convened as an independent body to hear the cases. I'm giving y'all it all. We did so as a quasi-legal body in the tradition of People's Tribunal, dating back to the Russell Tribunal. So you want to look those up and pull the knowledge from that to see what those are. And Permanent People's Tribunal, among others, while evaluating the charges in terms of international and domestic human rights law and practice. We also recognize that such legal structures have limitations that can reinforce racism and deny voice and redress to Black, brown, and indigenous people, as the prosecution in this case alleges. To assess the merits of the case, the tribunal convened from October 23rd to 25th, 2021. Over the course of two days, the jurors heard 18 attorneys and students of law solicit evidence from 30 witnesses from across the U.S. Background: the panel of jurors heard testimonies emphasizing the millions upon millions of indigenous and African peoples murdered, disappeared, and nearly exterminated over a period from 1492 till your current time, which is fucking November. Where we at? November the 11th. No, what the fuck? November the 10th. November the 10th, 2021. So from 1492 to November the 10th, 2021, indigenous and African peoples murdered, disappeared, and nearly exterminated. Further, the witness and prosecution argued that the wrongs have been historic and deliberate, with colonization, racism, militarism. I get tongue-tied and shit. Again, if you're just coming in, you're going to have to rewind the video. I'm not expecting all to get it or a lot of people to be interested. But for the Moors, the people who don't identify themselves as Negro, Black, and colored, the U.S. has been, as of October 31st, the U.S. has been, where is that? Charged with genocide against black, brown, and indigenous people by a United Nations, by a panel of jurists. If you don't know what jurist is, please go look up the word jurist. So a panel of jurists found the U.S. government and its subdivisions guilty of genocide and gross human rights violations against black, brown, and indigenous people as of October 31st, 2021, which is why they're trying to jab y'all asses up. That's a whole nother conversation, but I'm telling you, it ain't on the news. You're not gonna find this on the news. You gotta look it up. This should be breaking news, dog. This is not an ongoing, this is not a trial. They were found guilty of genocide and human rights abuses against black, brown, and indigenous people, and they don't want to tell you that this has set the grounds for what they call it, reparations. Now, in the bill that Joe Biden just passed, this is probably one of the reasons why they giving immigrants' families who's lost their children and shit like that $500,000. So boom. So this is what we talking about. This is exactly what we talking about. So back to this. The panel of jurors heard testimonies emphasizing the millions upon millions of indigenous and African peoples murdered, disappeared, and nearly exterminated over a period from 1492 through the present, which today is November 10th, 2021. Further, the witness and prosecution argued that, I'm all in the camera, boy. Argue that the wrongs have been historic and deliberate, with colonization, racism, militarism, materialism, criminalization, patriarchy, neo-colonialism, and internal colonialism as part of a larger process that now manifests itself in medical and digital apartheid, chemical warfare, environmental violence, and racism, divestment, and a pandemic of accessible guns and drugs, with the majority of gun violence perpetrated by police and security forces in the false claim of upholding law and order. Statements were made testifying to new forms of colonialism, which include the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, and the commercialization of our health and privatization / commodification of all social services. Why ain't this on the news? Why is this not breaking news on CNN? Testimonies include substantial evidence of histories, distortion, and culture misappropriation contributes to and exaggerates the attempted invisibilization and denial of people's basic humanity. The profound impacts of all of these realities extend beyond an attempt to exterminate black, brown, and indigenous lives. Hence, as one witness stated, the colonization of the spirit and mind continues to this day. So, while y'all over here playing around, it's a pandemic, you trying to go to the bar without a vaccination card, this is what's going on. The United States has been found on 5 counts, been found guilty by a jurist who is representing the United Nations of human rights abuses. This is what's going on. You can read the whole thing. Just type it in on your thing. International Commission of Jurists finds U.S. guilty on all counts. Okay, just type that in and start doing the knowledge to it, because they're not gonna let us know. So I'm here to come and tell you, you ain't heard it from nowhere. Guess where you heard it first at? Yes, sir, your boy, Malik Michael Khalif Bey. You heard it here first. And I apologize if I came on here and I didn't do peace and greetings. I really have something to do. So I just wanted to share this because I was reading it. And then as I was reading it, I was like, you know what? Let me just make a quick video, go live real quick and share it to the people who gonna care. Because most people gonna see this and be like, oh, okay, what does that mean? You know, that don't mean nothing. Boom, boom, boom. You're waiting for somebody else to do something for you. Well, shit, people doing something for you, but you still need to get involved. You need to see what the fuck they doing on your behalf. Especially if you're identifying as black, brown, and indigenous peoples. And you located here in the so-called United States of America. Okay? You need to know this. So I'm going to scroll down further. The testimonies of this tribunal reaffirmed the traditional wisdom and knowledge of black, brown, and indigenous people. Strong evidence was presented on the unbreakable resistance and resilience of the people's struggle for justice and dignity in the face of egregious human rights violations and crimes against humanity. This spirit of collective survival shone through. The 2021 International Tribunal on U.S. Human Rights Abuses against Black, Brown, and Indigenous People was initiated by a U.S. coalition. So don't think the United States don't recognize this, because this shit was initiated by the U.S. coalition. And spirit of Mandela. Its own recognized legacy based on effects dating from the 1951 We Charge Genocide. Pension to the present resets on the idea of an extermination of U.S. human rights must be done in an international context. The panel of jurists came together as an independent body made up of legal scholars, human rights advocates, and activists and community leaders utilizing the international criminal law on genocide. See what I mean? United Nations Conventions on the Prevention of Genocide. Look that up. Also look this up. The International Criminal Law on Genocide. Okay? Continue with the article. And other instruments, the panel convened to hear and review the testimony organized by the Spirit of Mandela legal team. The accused, though informed, did not... Listen to this. The accused, though informed, who is the accused? They accusing the United States of America, which they said in this court document that the U.S. is represented by its president and the Department of State. So these motherfuckers are the accused. The accused, though informed, did not respond to the charges and indictments against them, nor did they appear as invited to present a defense. So the United States just has defaulted. So this stands as truth. They didn't want to do no defense. They didn't want to come appear so they can defend themselves. So this stands as truth. Proceedings. The following is a summarized and preliminary presentation of the testimony. Police killings. Testimonies have heard regarding an alarming pattern and practice of police murdering Black, brown, and indigenous people with impunity. We were informed that a recent commission of inquiry found that Black people, so-called Black people, are 3.5 times more likely than white people to be killed by police when blacks are not, when so-called blacks are not attacking or doing or do not have a weapon. This is for real, bro. Mass incarceration. Testimony emphasized that in the case of the U.S. constitutional law, while the 13th Amendment promised the abolition of the process of chattel slavery, it in fact created an exception incentivizing the incarceration of people of African descent and other peoples. Further, they argue that a school to prison pipeline has been set in motion by the racialized policies and programs of the U.S. federal and state governments. One testimony noted the law is used as a weapon of war against black, brown, and indigenous people. Further testimony indicates that there are U.S. policies of wars on poverty, wars on drugs, wars on terror, and others amounting to war on black, brown, and indigenous people as they disproportionately criminalize their youth and communities. Political prisoners. Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey is a political prisoner / prisoner of war and should be set free immediately. It's crazy. Arguments were made presenting the criminalization of legitimate political struggles, most particular of black and brown and indigenous peoples. One witness testified that it's like a counterintelligence program on steroids. Wasn't Brother Jamal telling us about this? You can go to Rossmore's and .org and you can see from documentation that he got from the FBI records about COINTELPRO, which stands for counterintelligence program. This is what they're talking about. Several witnesses testified that with regard to traditional torture techniques, there is ample evidence of solitary confinement lasting for decades. Amir Jamal, I apologize for butchering your name, but that brother right there, Mamiya. Lasting for decades, which goes so far beyond the UN constituted definitions of torture. So these people just torturing people with confinement, solitary confinement, which goes so far beyond the United Nations constituted definition of torture that they defy any modern standards of humane government. Come on, man. Come on, man. Further testimony was presented arguing that decades-long sentences have been imposed for those imprisoned of their political beliefs. Further testimony was presented arguing that decades-long sentences have been imposed for those in prison for their political beliefs. Let me read that one more time. Further testimony was presented arguing that decades-long sentences have been imposed for those in prison for their political beliefs. Y'all not understanding what's going on. I'm about to get off. One witness stated the U.S. is the only industrialized nation in the world that denies the existence of political prisoners. One witness stated the U.S. is the only industrialized nation in the world that denies the existence of political prisoners. Come on, man. Stop playing with me. Environmental racism. Do I got to go into it? Flint, Michigan. They still not drinking clean water. Military guy comes set up a machine that cleans the water. Someone comes vandalize it. Environmental racism. That's what they're talking about. Okay. Public health inequalities. Do I got to go at it again? Flint, Michigan. And many other places. I mean, we can go on and on. Judgment. Now this was the judgment. Despite the need of further, look, the jurist, here we go. A full and detailed judgment will follow regarding our findings on these counts. Any minority position of the jurors will be developed with collective consensus on each count asserted to further advance our recommendations for redemption, reparations, and future actions. After having heard the testimony of numerous victims of police racism, mass incarceration, environmental racism, public health inequalities, and of political prisoners / prisoners of war, together with the expert testimonies and graphic presentations, as well as the compitious documentation submitted and admitted in the record, the panel of jurists finds the United States and its subdivisions guilty of all 5 counts. We find grounds that acts of genocide have been committed. Signed October 25th, October 21, panel of jurists. Church Center of the United Nations, dog. Breaking news. Breaking news. I just wanted to come and let y'all know, though, that's breaking news. The United States has been fired on all counts. 5 counts of genocide against black and brown people. Political prisoners, they talk about the military-industrial complex. They talk about, I mean, just go read the shit, man. So I just wanted to come on here, give y'all a quick little time out my day. I got very important stuff to do. So I just want to give time out my day to show y'all that. Peace and love. Please look that up. And we got to start writing to these news stations and be like, hey, why y'all not reporting on this shit? So this is why the 5, if you see something on Fox, the Fox News reacted when the, I don't know who it was, the secretary of the Biden administration, and he said that racism was built in his roads and stuff like that. And the 5 was making fun of him. It's because they got found and tried with these acts that I was reading off to you. And they have been found guilty. Okay? 30 witnesses and receiving hundreds of documents. The panel of jurists found the U.S. government and its subdivisions guilty of genocide and a gross human rights violations against black, brown, and indigenous people. You see how serious this is serious shit right here. So while you playing around, getting drunk and doing all that shit, they trying to get rid of your ass quick as possible. This ain't no game. Military industrial complex and all these other industrial complexes that they got warned against us. So, for all my Moors that's going to watch this, please, I'm telling y'all, we got to get together now and see how we can act off this. Because you just heard the last line I read. Let me go back down here. Judgment. So, asserted further advance our recommendations for redemption, reparations, and future. A full detailed judgment will follow regarding our findings on these counts. Any minority position of the jurists will be developed with collective consensus on each count asserted to further advance our recommendations for reparations and future actions. So this is what they're talking about. So we can't be out the loop because they're not going to report this on the news. Okay? So peace and love. Y'all have a good day. Y'all stay safe out here. Stiff arm that corona. Peace.